In Nightmare Tenants Slum Landlords, we unearth stories of people whose homes spelt misery.
You are not stepping foot inside my house.
I've been after rent for 8 months.
Okay, that's the end of it. We leave it there.
From the renters at the mercy of slum landlords.
This is really, really bad.
I just don't feel safe here.
To the landlords facing financial ruin from terrible tenants.
Cat urine, feces, disgraceful.
I feel violated, that's how I feel.
In this episode, we revisit some of the most extreme stories.
Yeah, come get my face.
You're a nasty, unpleasant little lady.
We find out what happened next.
You owe now over 30,000. How do you intend paying that?
I will never forget that somebody could do that.
And the lessons learned by both landlords.
I'm so angry, I'll probably punch her or something.
If I don't see him for the rest of my life, I'll be happy.
And tenants.
I don't want anything to do with him.
As they went through hell.
I just really want to tell him how much this has ruined my life.
You're making me cry.
For their home.
Somebody that lives like this is just scum.
Britain's rental game is a minefield for both landlords and tenants alike. Even when landlords do all the proper checks, they sometimes get it badly wrong. As did one Essex landlord back in September 2015, who went through hell and back trying to reclaim her home. Lorraine Cobb decided to invest her nest egg in this buy-to-let two-bedroom flat in Southend, half an hour from her own home in Essex.
I advertised in the paper and I must have had in the region of 30 applicants, believe it or not, and I chose the wrong one.
At first, there was no reason to be worried.
I got a reference from a last landlord who had her as a tenant for 4 years and said she was a very nice young lady, always paid the rent, no problem.
But 5 months later, things started to go wrong.
I went to check the bank statement. No rent had gone in. Couldn't get in touch with her. We found out that she'd actually gone into prison for biting off a man's nose. Went down to the flat and this guy answers the door and told me that he was a friend of hers and the rent was going to go in. He was going to pay the rent for until things got sorted out. But I knew he was telling me lies.
The man Lorraine met turned out to be her tenant's ex-boyfriend. He too wasn't paying any rent, and what's more, her tenant claimed he had no right to be living in the flat. Now owed £4,500, the strain was taking its toll on Lorraine.
Coupled with the fact that I haven't been well, I think I have been particularly reasonable, and he hasn't.
Desperate to get her flat back, Lorraine called eviction lawyer Chris Sharp from the Landlord Group for help.
When Lorraine first approached me, I knew instantly it was going to be a problem, a real problem tenant. Lorraine's tenant is doing 4.5 years inside. The tenant, ex-partner, has unlawfully moved in, so we've got to end the tenancy with the prisoner and then deal with the guy who is unlawfully occupying the property.
Lorraine and her husband John were in a terrible situation. Maria Downs, the tenant, was in prison for GBH. They needed to persuade her to voluntarily give up the lease and in turn get rid of her ex. But that meant meeting the tenant face to face in prison.
Very nervous about going into a prison. Yeah, really don't fancy this part.
It's never an easy thing to explain to a client that they really ought to go to the prison. But on this occasion, it was worth the risk.
Nice to meet you.
You too. How are things?
Chris gave Lorraine a deed of surrender to give to her tenant Maria. If she signed it, they could get the flat back quickly, cheaply, and without having to go to court.
All it's saying to her is that you're in arrears and that we're going to have to take action. If you don't, just surrender the property.
Lorraine was the only one who had permission to visit the tenant.
Sorry, you're too nervous.
I am, I'm terrible.
Lorraine's husband John could only walk her as far as the entrance.
Do you know what crime she committed to get in there?
Yeah, she bit a guy's nose off.
Bit a guy's nose off?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Over an hour later, Lorraine came out.
Okay, Lorraine. How did it go? How did it go?
Yes,
How did it go?
okay. Yeah, very good.
Well,
She has got so much regret, it's unbelievable. And there's no doubt at all she's having nothing at all to do with that guy.
The tenant wasn't allowed to sign the papers at the visit, so it was on to plan B.
What we need to do is give her a couple of weeks to sign the documents, and then we don't have to then go through the process of almost a pointless eviction of a woman who's not there.
Yeah.
And we can concentrate on the guy that's in there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Lorraine's tenant Maria voluntarily gave up the lease, with luck, she'd be able to get rid of her and her ex-boyfriend Greg all at the same time. Removing a problem tenant can be stressful enough, but for some the nightmare continues long after eviction day. Back in August 2015, printer Simon Cummings was on his way to evict his problem tenant from what was once the home he shared with his partner and their 4 children. They'd split up 6 years previously, and ever since he'd been renting the house out to tenant Sarah Ozor and her children. The problem began a year before when he told her he was going to sell the house.
The house had to be sold. Ever since that point, tenants stopped paying rent, and a year later they're still refusing to go.
A lot of the time the biggest problem is that you have landlords that aren't out there for a long-term strategy of renting property out and being landlords, but actually are the accidental landlords.
I'm not really sure what to expect. It's either going to go very smoothly or, you know, very badly, I think. One of the two.
Simon was owed £15,000 in back rent and had lost more in legal costs. But 6 weeks previously, a court awarded him possession of his home, and it was finally D-Day. Landlord Action's Paul Champlina was helping oversee the eviction.
Oh, here it is, with the green... Oh, look, the tenants are still here. Drive past, look. There's a car in the driveway, so I think the tenants are still there.
It wasn't just a year's rent Simon had lost, but also a prospective buyer for the house, because the tenant refused to budge.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers, and you.
Nice to meet you. Are they there? Is that their car?
I guess it is, yeah.
So we're going to have fun and games if they're still there.
I've got a feeling they're going to play up, you know.
They play up, that's why we're here.
With the eviction scheduled for 10 minutes' time, the locksmith and bailiff arrived.
OK, let's do it. I just want to get it over with now.
Hopefully we're going to get property back. What state it's in, we don't know.
Bailiff's office, van is on his way. We've got the van is on his way. You're going to have to come down and open the door, madam, because if you don't come and open the door, we're going to fall sentry.
If the tenant refused to leave, the bailiff would have to call the police to help remove her.
Evicting a family, it's never nice. So, yeah, I do have a lot of sympathy, but I don't have sympathy with tenants that owe 15 grand in rent arrears. They need to go. So bailiff's just got into the property. The problem is, you said the van's on its way. I mean, why wait now? You know, it's just, it absolutely infuriates me. This tenant said she was going to leave last August, a year ago. She still hasn't left. I mean, you know, so now we've got a waiting game.
Me.
Can I speak? I'm his legal representative. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going. I'm from Landlord Action. I'm his legal representative.
Okay. Well, we've just asked the van to come.
Okay.
So the van should be here soon. You're going to have to wait outside in the rain.
Are you able to wait in your car so you don't get wet?
Yeah.
But we have to secure the property now. Simon, come out here. Okay. We'll start changing the locks, yeah? We're making sure that we gain possession now. There could be a wait of a couple of hours here, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
It's like a kick in the nuts, isn't it? It's like,
It is,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Simon was really getting worried. He was desperate to get into a property. I have a lot of sympathy when you think the tenant's going to leave, or they say they're going to leave, and the tenants haven't left. You got your property back?
Yeah.
This is the key.
Cheers, mate.
With the locks changed, the tenants left the property.
No, I'm walking to strap, man.
You're walking?
Long, yeah.
Have you got your phone?
I prepped when I'm outside.
Okay. All right. What is it called? Hopefully the man should be here by 1 o'clock.
Right, we can't wait all day. It should have happened earlier.
Yeah, thank you anyway.
The court had ordered the tenant to pay Simon the £15,000 she owed.
He wants to know about the rent.
No, we've been paying the rent.
We've got an order for about £15,000.
No, that's not true.
Because I've got the order here. Tenants don't think that they owe the money. They don't think that they're being evicted. They just don't think it's going to happen.
Another day in paradise.
Let's go in the house, Simon.
Okay.
Hopefully with a decent ending.
It had taken the best part of a year for Simon to get his house back. And there was a shock in store.
Oh, jeez. Look at this state there. It smells of dogs and dirt, dirty washing up in there. It's just, oh. Wow. There's just so much stuff in here. God. Smells awful, really.
She's organised a van with 2 guys. I hope the van's big enough from what I can see here. This is absolutely horrendous. Oh my God. Oh my God.
This is going to take...
This is a nightmare.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? Oh my God. It beggars belief,
This is just
doesn't it?
unbelievable.
I don't really know what I was expecting. I sort of was expecting this. It's awful. Really bad. It's going to take all day to move this, isn't it?
Problem is, if they're going to take their stuff out, someone needs to be here because they could barricade themselves in. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we have to think worst case scenario.
Okay.
Right? I'm worried that they're going to need 2 or 3 van trips.
With the removal van a no-show, the tenants drove off, leaving their belongings behind. The problem for Simon was that by law, he had to hold on to all their possessions for up to 3 months.
The house is in a bit of a mess, but just really pleased to get it back. Really pleased it's all over.
Yeah, cheers. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, okay.
Simon had his property back, but packed full of the tenants' belongings. He knew his ordeal was far from over. Even when a tenant stops paying rent, it's no simple matter to get them out of your property. And when the tenant thinks they know their rights, things can get even more messy. Back in August 2015, Donovan Nelson, a successful music entrepreneur, went to check on one of his properties. His troublesome tenant hadn't paid any rent in over 7 months.
She comes up with all these crazy excuses. One moment she was going to the bank to pay the money in and she was robbed. She said so many different things, from dropping her wallet to saying her father's just died to... It's been endless stories.
Quite clearly, he was really, really cheesed off with his tenant that was giving him a pack of lies, one lie after another, you know. The only excuse I didn't hear was the dog had ate the cheque.
At one point, she even said she's going to do laptop dancing to bring some funds in. And I keep on saying to her, that's not my concern. So she's just like a woman of great stories.
Tired of the increasingly outlandish excuses, Donovan offered his tenant a deal.
It makes total business sense when you've got a tenant that can't afford to live in your property to say, I'll write off all the rent arrears, just leave.
I said to her, look, let's just call it a day and can you just move out, forget the money, and then we can have the property back. And she's being wrong and strong and just won't move.
Desperate and out of options, Donovan was now taking his tenant to court to have her evicted.
We're here.
It was the day before the case was due to be heard, and Donovan was making one last attempt to agree a deal with his tenant. He hadn't seen her in 2 years.
She must be at work, maybe. It makes you a bit frustrated to think that she's working and she's not paying the rent, but she's happy to just stay there forever at my expense. It makes you want to kick the door off and just change the locks, but you can't do that. Legally, I can't do that. She says, see you in court, I'll fight you there.
With no sign of his tenant, Donovan's hopes for reclaiming his flat now rested with the upcoming court case. It had been 7 months since pensioner Lorraine Cobb had received any rent on her 2-bed flat in Southend. To her horror, she discovered her tenant had been sent to prison for biting off a man's nose, and had begun claiming her ex-boyfriend Greg was living in the flat without her permission. 2 weeks had passed since Lorraine visited her tenant in prison to try and get her to sign a document allowing Lorraine to take back her flat.
Hello?
Hi, Lorraine. It's Chris Sharp. How are you?
Oh, hello, Chris.
Eviction lawyer Chris Sharp, who was helping Lorraine, wanted to know if she had now received the signed document.
Lorraine, I haven't received the signed deed of surrender, and I was hoping that you've got some good news for me.
Nothing at all. Nothing whatsoever. So she was obviously very insincere.
I really wasn't wanting to hear this, Lorraine. We're going to have to issue proceedings against Maria to get an eviction order against her and include the name of this guy that's in there.
Yeah.
But we will get them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lorraine was hoping to avoid legal proceedings, but now she had no choice. The next stage was to go to court to try and get her jailed tenant taken off the lease, and then evict the ex-boyfriend. That meant £1,500 in legal costs and a further 6 weeks without rent.
OK, good evening now. Bye-bye.
Good evening to you.
It complicates matters because we've now got to go against a person who's in prison. So all we can do now is issue proceedings on rent arrears grounds and see what happens.
Music entrepreneur Donovan Nelson was owed over £5,000 in unpaid rent by his tenant. He was heading to court, hoping to have her evicted from the 1-bedroom flat he rented to her in New Cross, South London.
She keeps on saying, hello, my brother, you're my brother, you're my this. And I said to her, look, you're my first black tenant, we got a number of properties, and now I'm going to hassle. We shouldn't be going to court. And that's why I'm very, very upset about it.
In Donovan's case, you know, he wasn't as desperate for the money. He just wanted a shot. He wanted to put this experience behind him.
Donovan knew he had a tough fight on his hands. He worried that because his tenant had a legal background, she may know how to play the system.
She's going to defend the case with stacks of stories and lies and everything else. Here's my sister, my dad. Hi there, how are you? Hi. Okay, well, I'm pleased to turn up anyway, so we'll see what happens. Maybe she might agree to move out in a month's time, but I doubt it, though. Because she said she'll fight being caught. She's on cuckoo land.
At the last minute, the tenant arrived for the hearing. Donovan's lawyer, Roger Obi, had discovered she got a legal aid solicitor and was planning to fight the eviction.
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I've had an opportunity to speak with the duty solicitor today.
Right, okay.
Who's going to represent your tenant.
Right, okay.
And he's raised a very great number of issues. For example, repayment of the deposit.
Right.
The actual amount of arrears which are stated. Right. And disrepair issues. We really need to check the papers.
Right.
And see where we go.
Okay.
The hearing took just 5 minutes. Unfortunately for Donovan, his tenant's last-minute defence did the trick. The judge demanded more evidence and adjourned the case for 3 months.
The sad news is I'm going to trial. She's told lots and lots of lies and made up all these stories, so she'll be in the property for much longer without paying any rent. The advantage she's got is because she studied law for a number of years, that's why she's got an upper hand. She's saying there's been no hot water for 3 years. She's just saying that the flat's in disrepair. And then we're quite surprised by that because she's never informed me of this. And she's saying she called me to tell me about this and I didn't respond.
The tenant having a legal background would have helped. She would have known about process and when to file things and to do things last minute. And that normally will put a spoke in the wheel.
The burden of proof is now on the tenant to actually produce evidence of all her allegations. And from what Mr. Nelson tells me, it's unlikely that she'll be able to do that. So all in all, it might just be a delaying tactic before possession is eventually given up.
Thank you.
We'll continue in due course.
Right, okay, no problem. Okay, thank you.
Take care.
How long should we stay there for? Well, until October, another hearing. And she's going to try and prolong that even longer. She's just a crook.
She has to pay rent.
Well, she won't be paying rent either.
She's laughing then.
So anyway, until next time.
Donovan felt confident his tenant wouldn't be able to prove any of her allegations. Nonetheless, including legal fees, he was already owed over £6,500. With another court case scheduled in 3 months and no end in sight, Donovan faced ending up thousands more out of pocket. A few weeks later, Donovan, acting on advice from eviction expert Paul Champliner, decided to try and strike a deal with the tenant.
I thought to myself, look, I'm dealing with a mad woman here, so let's just try and get her out, see what she wants. Does she want to stay 6 months, a year, whatever she wants, let's agree on a date, and then get her out of it. And then she reluctantly agreed on nearly 3 months rent-free further to stay in the property. So I'm not going after the money or any arrears, I'm just saying, pack your bags, go, move on, never speak to me again. And find somebody else to be a mug.
Doing a deal made sense. By the time we would have gone back to court, he would have been in for a lot more legal fees. He would have to file loads of documents at court, loads of witness statements.
With a deal agreed and rubber stamped by the lawyers, Donovan would hopefully save yet more legal fees, as well as his peace of mind.
He just wanted to get shot of the tenant, okay? He did not want the stress.
Finally, he could look forward to his tenant leaving. After 7 months without rent and her tenant refusing to sign over her property, Lorraine Cobb was forced to go to court to get a possession order.
Going really well. We got the order.
Ecstatic. Justice is being done. Really pleased.
When we finally got the order, you could see just how relieved Lorraine was. It was a release of emotion. It was fantastic. It really was.
Three weeks later, Lorraine and John headed to their buy-to-let flat on the day set by the court for them to finally get back their property.
We got the property back. Unfortunately, what we cannot do, in fact, nobody can do, you cannot account for what the tenant is going to do in the meantime.
Their neighbour Glenn let them in.
How you doing, all right?
Is it really bad, Glenn?
Brace yourselves.
It looked like the tenant's ex-boyfriend was gone.
Jesus. Ugh.
But Lorraine was in for a shock.
Oh, it's absolutely hard.
It's all right, it's only crap, love.
Yeah, I know.
No, love.
Oh, what you'd like to do to him.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Please.
This was one of the worst I've seen. It was absolutely disgusting. You wouldn't have put an animal in that place. It was such a disgrace.
Oh, it's disgusting. Oh, I see what you meant.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Oh, isn't it low life?
Do you want a hot drink?
Yeah, I'd love one. Oh, I'm so sorry, Glenn, that you've had to put up with this. I can't express...
Jeez.
I'm so sorry.
No, no, no.
You've had all the
It's
disgusting smell and everything. It's honestly, it's beyond disgusting. Sorry. Sorry, okay.
You can smell cat urine, feces. Is disgraceful. To be bringing family and friends in and out of the smell, it was embarrassing. He is very intimidating as you first meet him because of his sheer size. For my wife, she'd wait for him to go out before she would venture out because she didn't want to cross paths with him. She was intimidated and she didn't know whether he was in a good mood or a bad mood. Yeah. I'm very glad that he's gone. Very, very glad.
I was actually told by an estate agent there is 1% that trash a place this badly when they leave, and this is the 1%. I don't honestly know now whether we will do it up and sell it or whether... I don't know. But I am a good cleaner.
Lorraine knew she had a mountain to climb.
I can't believe anybody could actually live like this. Somebody that lives like this is just scum.
Nearly a year has passed since Lorraine took possession of her Southend flat. Despite the trauma she went through, she decided to risk it and rent it out again. Today, she and John are heading over to check the flat's condition. It's the first time they've been there since handing over the keys to the new tenants.
I used to get butterflies, horrible. I used to feel really angry when I used to go to the property.
Any landlord in that position would have had the same problems. It literally was the law of sod here, and unfortunately, Lorraine had turned that card.
After After stumping up £6,000 on cleaning and refurbishing the property, Lorraine and John are hoping the new tenants are taking better care of it.
Oh, this all looks nice. Yes, it does look very nice. Yeah. Absolutely excellent. Very pleased indeed. You wouldn't recognise it?
It's certainly a far cry from the flat's condition when their last tenant left.
I have never ever seen anywhere so dirty as this.
It was dirtier than any public toilet you'd go into,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
we had to replace the bath where it was all jammed underneath, had to have all the works replaced. Everybody has said to me, what was that in that bath? Which does beg you to ask, where did he shower or wash? John, do you remember when you were clearing all these cupboards out? Yeah. Unbelievable.
Good junk.
Yeah, 30 sacks of rubbish. He just got down on his hands and knees and went right through, just crushing it all out onto the floor.
The new tenants have been in for almost a year, and so far it's been going smoothly.
We have a really nice little family moved in here. Obviously keeping it very nice and clean, tidy. I think you are definitely better to have a little family. You've got more chance of them being stable.
A huge relief for Lorraine as she can't afford another disaster.
The whole episode, including solicitor's costs, cost me £6,000. £6,000 in anybody's terms is quite a lot of money.
But that's all water under the bridge now.
Today, I am very happy. We're getting what we want out of it. They're obviously very happy to want to stay here, so it's an all-win situation. I'm quite a happy bunny.
Three weeks after Simon Cummings had his tenant evicted for failing to pay £15,000 in rent, he was still clearing out their belongings. Hiring removal specialists at his own expense and drafting his mother and daughter in to help clear up.
It's not just dirt though, it's mouse droppings, it's grime.
Simon was really getting worried because, of course, he needed to sell the property. He'd already lost a buyer, which has caused a massive financial implication.
The state of this house now, the amount it's cost to get rid of the tenants and the devaluation because of the state is in, it's probably cost, will cost in the region of somewhere like £60,000, I should think. Good enough to eat your dinner off. That'll do, I think. Right, we done?
Yeah.
Came up all right, didn't it?
Not bad, is it?
With the house finally clean and tidy, Simon was hoping to sell it to a young family who would enjoy it the way they once did. Just over a year has passed since Simon's mammoth clean-up, and Simon is no longer in the rental game.
I'm quite anxious about going back there. There is a part of me that's dreading seeing the house again. When I look at this house, I think of 2 years of hell, really. Solicitors, eviction, court, trying to get the tenants out. It's so difficult. If someone doesn't want to go, they can make it so difficult to go.
Now, at last, Simon has some closure.
The good news is that 10 months ago, the house was sold, which brought an end to the nightmare, really, of the 2 previous years. And allowed me to move forward and on with my life, really. I didn't really understand what it meant to be a landlord.
I've seen a huge rise of landlords coming into the industry that just don't know what they're doing, unfortunately.
I certainly won't rent out property again. The hassle, unless you're doing it professionally, if you're just doing it on the side, it's just not worth it.
After agreeing to let his non-paying tenant stay for a further 3 months, the day had finally come for Donovan Nelson to reclaim his property.
Right, so we have arrived.
Given his tenant's consistent defiance, Donovan was unsure what to expect and prepared for the worst.
I'm not sure if she's changed the locks. I think the top lock has been additional.
Thankfully, it looked like the tenant had finally left, though it appeared she'd changed the locks.
Hello? OK, bye.
The locksmith arrived to help Donovan break in.
Let's have a look at the door first.
Right. I think it's the top lock needs coming out.
For a locksmith, some jobs are trickier than others.
That's off as well, you know.
Oh.
Let's see if there's no mistake. Oh, shit. I turned it the wrong way.
That's been done before.
Come in. Oh, yeah. Whoa! God, that's a mess. OK. She said there's a little bit of stuff left in here. She lives like a slob. I'm surprised, because when you see her Facebook page, she looks so glamorous. She obviously didn't tidy up. Jesus. God, look how dirty this is. Bloody hell. Wow, lots of biscuits. She hasn't moved anything out. All of her food is here, clothes is here. She had no intention of leaving. This means that the whole saga is prolonged for longer. She'll still be indirectly in my life until she's moved all this stuff out. There's so much stuff here. It's like a hoarder. Unless she's got a problem of some sort, it's quite embarrassing, but she could have spoken to me. But anyway, it's time to move on. I can't carry her baggage. Excuse the pun.
Donovan was keen to find out if her list of complaints about the flat were valid.
Yeah, the water's warm.
Quite clearly you can see there was nothing wrong with the flat, but it's easy to state disrepair when you go to court because the judge just doesn't have the time to deal with those issues, so it's easier for him to adjourn the case.
It's a shame. You see, she saw me coming, I was too nice. Oh, my God. Almighty God, welcome my case against all my enemies. Amen. Donovan Nelson. Shit, you're doing voodoo on me. I know what shit.
Well, he gave her property. She hadn't paid for 8 months, plus the 3 months that he gave her rent-free. You know, how's that being an enemy? Living in her own cloud cuckoo land.
And I thought as a friend by saying, hold on, let's do a payment plan, let's work things out. And she saw me as her enemy because I wanted the property back. God.
As a precaution, to make sure the tenant couldn't get back in, Donovan got the locksmith to change the locks.
I'd be much happier if everything was empty.
You can't have everything.
Of course, it's true, yeah.
You didn't really expect to come in and it'll be absolutely...
I did, actually.
You didn't?
I did, I swear to God.
Absolutely perfect? Even a bottle of wine on the table?
No, I expect everything would be empty and nicely clean. I don't know why. I just thought that's...
This is pretty good.
I didn't expect all this junk from a lady.
Oh.
If it's a man, yeah. I thought women was tidier. Yeah, I thought women were, yeah.
A lady lives alone is not tidy.
OK, all right, OK. I'm going to Knightsbridge to have some sushi, so at least I go and say, yes, fine, one chapter closed. Well, it's not really, she's still got some of her stuff here, but at least it's a big relief. It's over! Thank you, bye-bye.
Having endured 7 months without receiving the full rent, Donovan was over £6,000 out of pocket, but he was ready to draw a line under the whole disastrous saga. Today, nearly a year later, Donovan's tenant and her belongings are long gone. Although after she left, she returned one more time.
The cheeky woman actually came back again and wrote on my door, "Good luck to you, landlord," in ink. Cheeky bitch. Maybe that's a continuation of her voodoo. I come in here, you get a flashback of the nightmare, and it just reminds me of some bad times and stressful times.
But undeterred by his long and painful battle to get her out, Donovan's not about to give up being a landlord. Today he has new tenants in and wants to check on the state of the property.
It's nice to come to a flat and see I've got nice tenants and the place is being well looked after, so it gives you peace of mind. The flat looks different now because I spent a lot of money to obviously renovate the whole thing and change the flooring and everything else because it was in very poor condition.
Donovan is determined not to get played again.
I must say my experience has changed my attitude. I think I'm much harder and more stern, and I demand more references, and I make sure that everything goes via an agent. So if a friend calls me up and says, look, can you do me a favour? I've got a good friend. It's still no, no, no. Let's go through the right channels, go via the agents, let's do the right checks. So I've learned by my mistakes and it will never happen again.
It's really important to get the relationship right between a landlord and the tenant. You've got to make sure that you see this as a business.
And the new, stricter Donovan has a message for the tenant that caused him so much grief.
If I was to see the tenant again, I would say to her, you thieving bitch, don't do that again.